Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Week 13 Monday Night Football 2-game slate on Draftkings and Yahoo. We do have another doubleheader for Monday night because of COVID and because of games having to get rescheduled. This Washington-Pittsburgh game that was scheduled for last Sunday was scheduled to be played yesterday. It got postponed to Monday, so we're going to have another doubleheader, and all the big tournaments are going to be for the 2-game slate. There's still a showdown slate for the late night game if you do want to play that. But, the Millie Maker, we got a Millie Maker for this 2-game slate, 2.25 in total prizes with $1 million to first. The DFS action's just through the roof on these 2-game slates whenever we get these doubleheaders. We've had some earlier this year. I'm pretty sure there was a Millie Maker for those as well. So we're going to break down this 2-gamer like we always do. We'll start off at quarterback. We'll work our way through each position, quarterback through tight end. We'll talk about all the playable options, the guys that I have the most interest in for this 2-game slate. We'll look at Draftkings pricing. We'll talk about guys that I do like over on Yahoo as well. But before we do get started, as always, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button down below. And if you are new to the channel, be sure to click the subscribe button as well. I do upload a ton of NFL content to this channel. I'm going to be making NBA videos daily as well. Once NBA season starts in just a couple weeks, NBA season is right around the corner. And, that's one of my favorite sports to provide content for. You guys show so much support on my NBA videos. I can't really thank you enough for that. Really excited for NBA to get here in a couple weeks. I'll still be making NFL content as well, but I'm definitely excited to have NBA back, to have a sport that we can play daily, that we can just grind daily. So really miss that grind. I'm excited for this 2-gamer though. We'll break this down like I said, position by position. So yeah, let's go ahead and start off at quarterback, guys. We will start off at the top. Josh Allen, our most expensive option on this slate. He's $7,300 on DraftKings. If we look at Yahoo's pricing, you got Josh Allen coming in $36 over on Yahoo. So looking at the 4 quarterbacks that are playable on this slate, you have Josh Allen, Ben Roethlisberger, who's listed as questionable, but I am going to assume that Ben Roethlisberger plays. I'm pretty sure they've already come out and said that he's in line to start. I'm not worried about him missing this game. So we got Allen, Big Ben, Nick Mullins, and then Alex Smith. Those are our 4 quarterbacks on this slate. I think Josh Allen is clearly the best quarterback on this out of these 4 options. He's the best quarterback overall. He's definitely the highest upside option as well. We've seen Josh Allen can go for 30, 35, close to 40 DraftKings points. This is a guy that can go for 350, 400 yards, can get 3 or 4 passing touchdowns. He's got rushing upside as well, which, you look at the other quarterbacks like Big Ben. Obviously, Big Ben doesn't have any rushing upside. Nick Mullins really isn't going to run much. He's not a guy that's going to scramble. Alex Smith has a little bit of, scrambling upside, but really not much at all. So I think Josh Allen's the guy that we definitely want to pay up for on the slate. He is clearly the best quarterback, in my opinion. $7,300 on DK, $36 on Yahoo. I'm going to be trying to get in Josh Allen into as many lineups as I can. There's Big Ben that you could maybe look to. Big Ben has shown somewhat of his ceiling this year. Doesn't have any rushing upside. But we know this is a Steelers team that just will throw the ball a ton. Big Ben has thrown the ball at least 42 times in 4 straight games. His pass attempts are going to be high. Even if they're playing with the lead, they will still keep their foot on the gas pedal and throw the ball. Without James Conner, they could probably lean on the pass even more. Washington has a solid defense, but I wouldn't really worry about that too much. I don't know if Big Ben, though, I don't know if he has the upside that a guy like Josh Allen does. I think it's very likely that Josh Allen's going to be the highest scoring quarterback out of the 4 options. Big Ben, I'll still have in my player pool because I do normally play multiple lineups on these 2-game slates. I'll still have Big Ben in my pool. I just don't think he's going to be my highest owned quarterback. Josh Allen will definitely be my highest owned. Big Ben, though, he's my second favorite quarterback behind Allen. If you want to go cheap, you do have Nick Mullins and you do have Alex Smith as cheap options. Mullins is $5,100, Alex Smith is $4,900. If I have to choose between one of these 2 quarterbacks, Nick Mullins is definitely my favorite between the 2. I just think it's a better matchup. It's a better game environment. Alex Smith has to go on the road to face one of the best defenses in the league in the Steelers. I don't really want to play Alex Smith even though he is cheap. If I'm going to play a cheap quarterback, I do prefer Mullins at $5,100. I like his stacking options as well. I have interest in Deebo Samuel. I think you could maybe stack him up with Jordan Reed as well, who is cheap at tight end, and tight end's just a gross position overall on this 2-game slate. Mullins, doesn't have much upside either, really, since he's taken over the starting job, since Garoppolo went down. He really hasn't shown much of a ceiling, but he's cheap. It's a solid game environment. It's a solid total as well, 47 total. The Bills defense has been one that you can beat. They've been beatable this year. if I had to rank the four quarterbacks, I think I would probably rank them how they're priced. Josh Allen by far my number one, Big Ben number two. Between the two cheap quarterbacks, I do greatly prefer Mullins over Smith. I don't really see myself going to Alex Smith. Even if I'm playing like 10 or 20 lineups, he'll probably be out of my player pool. The only reason I could see playing him would be to maybe if you want to stack him with like Terry McLaurin. Like if you just want to assume that maybe Smith leans on McLaurin and let's say Terry McLaurin has 150 yards and a touchdown, I could see stacking him with Alex Smith, but that's really the only scenario I would consider Smith. Just straight up, I'd rather play Mullins over him. I think Mullins is going to project better. Alex Smith most likely will be a full fade for me. And if he winds up as the highest scoring quarterback, then I'll probably just lose and I'll move on to Tuesday when we have another showdown slate. So ranking the quarterbacks, I'd rank them how they're priced with Josh Allen by far my number one option at the position. But really, that's it for quarterback. Let's go ahead and break down running back now. Take a look at the running back position. So we'll start off at the top. You got Antonio Gibson, 6,500 as the most expensive running back on Draftkings. It's a tough matchup here. He's on the road against the Steelers. Obviously, a tough matchup. I mean, the Steelers have probably the best defense in the league, if not top two, top three defense in the league. Their run defense is great. They've been great against the run this year. They've been a tough team to run on in general. Really, you're just banking on talent and volume for Antonio Gibson. The matchup's not good. It's a bad game environment. They're underdogs as well. But he's going to get the volume, 17 touches. Like, he's gotten at least 17 touches in 3 straight games. He's getting some usage in the passing game as well. Like, even if Washington is playing from behind, Antonio Gibson will still be involved. I know they'll involve McKissick a lot if they're playing from behind, but I don't expect Gibson to just be completely wiped off the field. Even if they get down, like, Gibson should still be out there. The volume should still be there. If they're, at the goal line, if they're in the red zone, I do expect Antonio Gibson to be the guy punching it in when they're at the goal line. Just based on his talent, just because it's a 2-game slate and we don't have many options, I still think Antonio Gibson is in play for sure. I just don't think he's one of my favorite options overall. I do prefer Raheem Mostert for cheaper. Mostert 5,800 on DK. Mostert's actually the most expensive running back on Yahoo, but I still think he looks really good over there. It's a good matchup for sure. This Buffalo defense has definitely been one that you can run on this year. They've been beatable through the ground, and the volume was there for Mostert in his first game back. He kind of got his workhorse role back even in his first game. Got 16 carries, also got 2 receptions as well, so 18 total touches. He wasn't very efficient last week against the Rams. That was a really tough matchup. Much better spot, though, here. This is a guy that he's just an explosive runner. He's a great running back overall. Probably one of the more underrated running backs in the league. I really wish the 49ers would give him just like a workhorse-type role like we see some other guys get, like a Dalvin Cook. Like, I wish they would give Mostert 25, 30 touches a game. Sucks that they don't do that, but even on 18, close to 20 touches, Mostert against this Bills defense that, is one that you can run on, I think he is clearly one of the better running back plays on the slate. Given the savings, I do prefer him over Antonio Gibson. I definitely like Mostert overall as, just one of the better running back plays on this slate. And then you have Benny Snell for 5,400, who is definitely in play. With James Conner unlikely to play, Conner was put on the COVID list, and I believe he was forced to miss their last game, and they've already come out and said that he is not expected to play for this game. So Benny Snell should be in line to start once again. And last week with Conner out, Snell did get the start, and he got a good amount of volume. He got 19 total touches, 16 carries for 60 yards, and he also got 3 receptions on 4 targets. The volume was there for Snell. Pretty sure he missed out on like a few touchdowns as well. Like, I know they got down to the goal line a few times, and Snell, I think he got stuffed at the goal line like once or twice. Could have had a better game than he did last week. It wasn't the best matchup overall against that Ravens defense. Washington's defense is also pretty good. They're pretty good against the run, but it's a 2-game slate. We don't really have many options to choose from. I don't really want to go to the Buffalo running backs. It's just so hard to predict between Moss and Singletary which one of those 2 guys is going to have a good game. I'm probably just going to, my running back pool is probably just going to be Mostert, Gibson, and Benny Snell. Like, those are going to be the guys that I really focus on this slate. And Benny Snell at 5,400, assuming Conner does miss, which looks like it's going to be the case, I like him at 5,400. I think he is a very strong option in that 5K range. And then going over to Yahoo, it's a little bit of a tougher decision there because Gibson and Snell are only $1 difference. Obviously, I think Gibson's the more talented running back. Between matchup-wise, I mean, it's a tough matchup for both guys, Gibson and Snell. I think I do slightly prefer Snell just because, Pittsburgh's probably going to score more points. They are big favorites. I guess I could see a scenario where maybe if Washington gets down early, like say Washington gets down 14-0 in the first quarter, like maybe we see a little bit more J.D. McKissick than we would want to see. For that reason, I think I do give the edge to Benny Snell over on Yahoo as well, even though he's closely priced to Gibson. I'll still have exposure to Gibson. He'll definitely be in my player pool. But if I just have to rank the running backs, how they're priced, I think I would go Mostert number 1, Snell number 2, Gibson 3, and then if you want to take a shot on Moss or Singletary, I guess you could do that. If you want to play, or if you want to assume that, Washington gets down in this game and is playing from behind, which is probably going to be the case, you could maybe look to J.D. McKissic. J.D. McKissic has been used a ton in the passing game. His targets have obviously gone down over the last 2 weeks, but we've seen they will use him a lot in the passing game. He had 2 weeks in a row with over double-digit targets. Like I said, if Washington gets down early, if they're down 14-0, we could see a lot of J.D. McKissic. We could see him just catching a bunch of screen passes, a bunch of dump-offs from Alex Smith. I guess he's not the worst option, but yeah, I think my running back pool is going to be pretty tight. Mainly Mostert, Snell, and Antonio Gibson. Those are going to be the 3 guys that I really lean on for this 2-gamer. So let's go ahead and move on to running back. Or wide receiver. I don't think there's really anyone else to talk about at running back. So most expensive wide receiver on DK is Stephon Diggs, $7,500. Pretty expensive price tag for Diggs. He's $1,000 more than the next most expensive guy. He's $1,000 more than Terry McLaurin. But I still really like Diggs. I want to try and stack him up with Josh Allen. I think I'm going to be playing a good amount of Diggs on both sides. Diggs is actually a lot cheaper on Yahoo than he is on Draftkings. He's cheaper than Claypool, McLaurin, Juju, and Johnson. So definitely like Stephon Diggs, only $28 on Yahoo, the 5th most expensive receiver over there. Even though he's the most expensive receiver on DK, I still like him a ton on DK as well. Look, Stephon Diggs, he's just been awesome this season. I mean, really, what can you say bad about him? I mean, getting a ton of volume, pretty much close to double-digit targets almost every week. The 49ers have a solid defense, but Stephon Diggs is one of these guys. I don't really care who he's going up against. He's a great route runner. He'll find ways to get open. We know Josh Allen is going to get Diggs the ball. Even if he's covered, Josh Allen will throw it up there. I like Diggs a ton. I think he is clearly one of the best receiver plays on the slate. I'm definitely going to be stacking him up with Josh Allen. There are some good options in the 6K range. Like Terry McLaurin, it's a tough matchup for sure, but, kind of similar to Stephon Diggs. Like Terry McLaurin's just getting a ton of volume. 8 targets, 9 targets, 7 targets, 9 targets. Game script should be in favor of McLaurin in the passing game as well. Like as big dogs here, the Washington 6.5-point dogs. You expect them to be playing from behind. You expect them to be throwing a good amount, especially late in the game, trying to catch up. So McLaurin is definitely in play, even though it's a tough matchup. Like the guy's just so talented. He's another guy that just finds ways to get open. I'm sure Alex Smith is going to target him a ton, even though, it is a tough matchup. I do still like McLaurin. It's tough to choose between like McLaurin or the Steelers receivers. You have Johnson at 6,300, you have Claypool at 6,100, and you have Juju at 5,700. It's obviously a better matchup for the Steelers receivers. Pittsburgh's a more efficient offense as well. They're probably going to throw more. Like we know, even if Pittsburgh's playing with a lead, Big Ben, he'll still throw the ball 40 to 45 times a game. Deontay Johnson, I think, out of all the 6K receivers, he's probably my favorite guy. Like I've just played Deontay Johnson a lot this year. He's been so good to me. I mean, the volume is just so high right now. Double-digit targets in 4 straight games. In terms of targets, he has been the number 1 receiver for the Steelers this year. I know Juju had a solid game last week and Juju scored, but if we're just talking about volume, targets alone, Deontay Johnson is a guy that I'm going to look to play every week, and especially on this 2-game slate. I do like him here at 6,300. I think he makes a lot of sense as just like a mid-range wide receiver 2 that you can go with. You can still fit him with Diggs for sure. There's good value at receiver. We'll talk about like Cole Beasley, Gabriel Davis, guys you can consider for cheap. You can also always go cheap at tight end. You can always go cheap at defense. You can make it work playing, Diggs with one of these 6K receivers. And out of McLaurin, Claypool, Johnson, and Samuel, Juju, I guess you consider there as well. I think Johnson is my favorite of those 5 guys. Chase Claypool, the volume's there for him as well. Like he's clearly getting targeted a ton in this offense. 13, 10, 8, 9 targets the last 4 games. I think I just feel a little bit better about Deontay Johnson. Normally Johnson I'm going to prefer over Claypool almost every week, and I think that is the case here, especially when they're closely priced. If there was a big discount, then maybe I would prefer Claypool. But just between Claypool or Johnson, I think the volume is a little bit more secure for Johnson, so I do prefer him. Deebo Samuel, I actually have interest in as well. Double-digit targets, 13 targets in his first game back from injury. He missed, I think, 3 games, came back, 11 catches, 133 yards in his first game back. and that was against a pretty good Rams defense. Now he's going up against a Buffalo team that is definitely beatable. We talked about that earlier. Like, I do like this game. I think this game does have some shootout potential if the 49ers can put points on the board. I like Deebo Samuel at 6K. You know, between him and the Steelers receivers, I think I'd prefer McLaurin. I think I'd probably prefer Deontay Johnson too. But Deebo Samuel is definitely in play. I think I'd prefer Samuel over Claypool and Juju. So if I had to rank like the 6K receivers, I'd probably go Johnson number 1, McLaurin 2, Samuel 3. Between Claypool or Juju, I'd probably go Claypool 4, Juju 5. But, you know, all these guys are in play. I don't think any of these are like fades for me. I guess Brandon Ayuk could maybe be the fade. You know, he's coming back from the COVID list. I think he missed 2 games. He was out for COVID, missed 2 games, but he is expected back here. He's expected, you know, back for this game, and I'm not assuming he's going to be limited or anything. You know, with Deebo Samuel back, I don't know if Brandon Ayuk's going to see like 10, 14 targets like he saw whenever Samuel was out. But still, George Kittle is out for this 49ers team. So Ayuk, Samuel should be the 2 guys that lead this team in targets most weeks. You know, I think Ayuk is so closely priced to Deebo Samuel and to Juju that I'd probably just rather get up to those guys. I don't mind Ayuk, but, you know, he's probably one of my least favorite guys in this 5K and above range. I would rather get to all these other guys over him. McLaurin down to Juju. I think I would rather play all those guys over Brandon Ayuk. Between Ayuk and Beasley, probably would give the edge to Ayuk there. You know, Cole Beasley's just not a guy that I feel like I ever play. On a 2-game slate, you could look to him, but his floor is just so low, man. Like, even with John Brown out last week and John Brown expected to be out for, I believe, you know, a few more games, Beasley only got 4 targets last week, 2 catches for 25 yards. Like, his floor is just so low. You know, sure, he has a ceiling. You know, he went for 100 yards and a touchdown against Arizona. I think it's unlikely he does that again this year, but I don't mind Beasley. I think given the savings, though, I would probably rather get to Gabriel Davis. You know, just talking about the cheap receivers, I think Gabriel Davis is one of my favorite cheap receivers. I know he only saw 4 targets last week, but he did have a big play, did have a 44-yard catch, and I think he had like a 25-yard touchdown catch as well. Finished with 3 for 79 and a touchdown against the Chargers last week. Pretty much was an every down receiver with John Brown out, and with John Brown, you know, going to be out again. I do like Davis a lot at 4,300. He's going to be on the field a ton. He should get targeted a good amount. Whenever Brown has missed games this year, like Gabriel Davis has shown that he can produce whenever given the playing time. And only 4,300, we need some value since, you know, we want to get these 6K receivers in. We want to try and fit in Gibson, Snell, Mostert at running back. We want to pay up for Josh Allen at quarterback. I mean, we have to find some value somewhere. I think Gabriel Davis is one of the better values at 4,300. I do like him quite a bit as a cheap option, but, you know, once you get past Gabriel Davis, with Brandon Ayuk back, I don't really see myself going to Kendrick Bourne. Like, even with Ayuk out last week, Bourne only got 5 targets. I wouldn't expect that to change much. If anything, that should go down this week with Ayuk back. So Kendrick Bourne's just like, he's a GPP dart throw at best. Same with like James Washington, like Richie James. Like, I just don't really see myself going to these guys. I think my favorite cheap receiver by far, and just I think one of the better values overall on the slate is Gabriel Davis at 4,300. I do like him quite a bit with John Brown out again. But I think we covered receiver, guys. Let's go ahead and take a look at tight end real quick just before we do end the video. So normally tight end, we can find some cheap options, and that's definitely the case here. Eric Ebron is our most expensive tight end, and he's only 4,400. So we are going to have some salary relief at the tight end position. Ebron, especially since George Kittle is out and not playing, Ebron is clearly the best tight end on this slate in my opinion. Should get the most volume as well. Like, his volume is definitely the most secure out of, you know, between him, Jordan Reed, one of the Buffalo tight ends. Ebron's volume is definitely the most secure. Logan Thomas, like, we've seen Logan Thomas, Jordan Reed, Dawson Knox, like, those guys have very, very low floors. Sure, Eric Ebron, you know, he doesn't have the highest floor, but 18 targets over his last 2 games. You know, he's caught a touchdown in 2 of his last 4 games. We know they'll use him a lot in the red zone. He does have some touchdown equity. Like, I think Eric Ebron's just by far the best tight end on the slate. You know, it's a good matchup as well. Washington has been a team you can attack with opposing tight ends. At 4,400, you know, he's not that expensive. I think Eric Ebron is clearly the best tight end to go to. But if you are trying to pivot away from Ebron, or maybe you just need to save a little bit of salary, I don't mind Jordan Reed at 3,200. I think he's actually a solid value play that we can consider. You know, he has seen 12 targets over his last 2 games. With George Kittle out, he is clearly their number 1 tight end. You know, he's not a guy that's going to play like every snap just because, you know, at this point in his career, with all his injury concerns, like, he's not a guy that's just going to be an every down tight end. But when he's out there, he's going to be running routes. He's going to be out there to catch the ball. And He's seen 12 targets over his last 2 games. He's shown some upside this year as well. He did have a big game earlier this year whenever George Kittle missed, I believe. I think it was that game against the Jets in week 2. He had 2 touchdowns, 24 DK points. Like, he's definitely got some upside. He's only 3,200. The tight end position overall, like, would I be surprised if no tight end scores over 10 points? Like, no, I would not be surprised at all. I could see a scenario where Eric Ebron has 9 points, Jordan Reed has 8 points, Logan Thomas has 6 points, and Dawson Knox has 4 points. Like, I totally see a scenario where that happens. I don't really see any of these tight ends breaking the slate. I don't think any of these tight ends are going to be like I don't see a scenario where any of these tight ends put up like 25 and you have to have them to win. So for that reason, I don't mind getting off of Ebron. You know, obviously Ebron is the best projected tight end on the slate. He is clearly the number 1 tight end. But is Eric Ebron going to be a guy that you have to win? Probably not. So for that reason, I do like Jordan Reed at 3,200 just as a way to save a little bit of salary, get a little bit contrarian at the position. You know, if you're eating the chalk at quarterback, like if you're paying up for Josh Allen, if you're playing Diggs, Johnson, you know, the guys that project to be highly owned, you're going to want to try and differentiate somewhere. And I think tight end is a position where you can look to differentiate, get off the chalk of Eric Ebron, play a guy like Jordan Reed who comes in a lot cheaper, has just as much upside, has just as low of a floor. I'm going to be mixing and matching all these tight ends, mainly Ebron, Reed, and Thomas. Like, I don't really see myself going to the Buffalo tight ends. They just don't involve their tight end that much. But, you know, Logan Thomas you could consider as well. It's obviously not a good matchup, but we know he's pretty much an every down tight end at this point. He's going to see probably 4 to 6 targets. He does have some touchdown equity, some touchdown upside. You know, he's going to be touchdown or bust. He's going to probably need to score to like make the winning lineup. But for 3,100, if you're just looking to save some salary at the position, you're looking to pivot off of Eric Ebron. I don't mind Logan Thomas either, but I think Jordan Reed is my favorite like cheap guy, not named Eric Ebron. Definitely would rank the tight ends. Number 1, Eric Ebron, just because he's the best projected play at the position. Not factoring in ownership, I would have Ebron number 1. But when you factor in ownership, I think I'd actually rank Jordan Reed number 1. Those are going to be the 2 tight ends that I definitely have the most exposure to. I'll mix in a little bit of Logan Thomas as well, but I don't really see myself going to anyone else besides Ebron, Reed, and Thomas. I don't really see myself playing the Buffalo tight end. So I think that's it for tight end, guys, and I think that's really it for this 2-game slate. You know, I'm not really going to hit on defense. Defense, for me, obviously Pittsburgh's the best projected defense on the slate, but on these 2-game slates, like, defense is just so random. I'll just play whatever defense fits into my lineup. I don't care if I have 2, 3, 4 guys against my defense. You know, 4 guys might be a little bit too much, but I don't care if I have 2 or 3 guys against my defense. It's a 2-game slate. I could see a scenario similar to tight end where maybe the Steelers defense scores 8 points, the Bills defense scores 6 points, the 49ers defense scores 5 points, Washington's defense scores 3 points. Like, I don't really see a scenario where a defense is a must-have unless they get like a defensive touchdown. Like, obviously, if the Steelers force a ton of sacks and they get like a pick 6, you're probably going to have them to, you know, take down a tournament, but that's really hard to predict. The Steelers defense is also 4,500, whereas you can save a bunch of salary and just play like the Bills defense or play the 49ers defense, which is most likely what I'll be doing. You know, I'll probably have all defenses in my player pool, but I think probably the Bills would be the one I'd look to the most. Just factoring in, you know, the salary they save. You know, Nick Mullins, he's still a backup quarterback. I mean, he can make mistakes. He'll turn the ball over. I definitely like the Bills defense the most. But, you know, really, I don't really care whatever defense you fit. It's a 2-game slate. I just play whatever defense fits into my build. But, yeah, guys, I think that's it for this slate. I think we broke everything down for this 2-gamer. To finish out the Yahoo 5, I forgot to finish the Yahoo 5. It would be Deontay Johnson over there as well. You actually look at the Yahoo pricing. Juju's 31, Chase Claypool's 32. Deontay is actually the cheapest of the 3 Pittsburgh receivers, so I think that clearly makes him my preferred option over there. I did forget to do that, but yeah, guys, I think we broke everything down. I hope you did enjoy the video. I do appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed, hit that like button down below before you do get out of here. Hit the subscribe button as well. Be sure to click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You'll never miss out on any of my new videos. And I forgot to say this at the beginning, but if you do enjoy my content and you want to get more content from me, you want to see more that I have to offer, I do have a Patreon, which is linked down below in the description. If you want to check out the exclusive content I do have to offer over on Patreon, you can do so. It is obviously optional, but for those of you that are interested, I do have more content available over on Patreon if you want to check that out. But best of luck on this slate, guys. Hope you win some money. Good luck, and we will see you on Tuesday with, I think we have a showdown slate for Tuesday. I think there's a Tuesday night game, so I'll be back breaking down that slate on Tuesday. Good luck, and we'll see you then. Peace.